All right. G'day, class. Let's get started with another lecture, but this is the first one that we're going to be talking about with regard to philosophies. And it's not really a philosophy. You should be very, very familiar with this. This is Coach William Warren's Top 24 Lessons for Coaches. There won't be any big surprises in here. You're going to be very familiar with most of it because it's the way that we've all been raised. Remember, in the first part of the semester, we're going to be talking about goal setting, short, intermediate, and long-term goals, and satisfaction to those goals. And it's a very popular type of exercise and very popular type of methodology, primarily because it's simple. It's very, very simple. You simply go from A to B. And it's how you do it and how expeditiously you do it. And you're going to be the one in charge of how much time and energy you're going to be allocating to the journey and the direction in which you take. Anyway, this is actually, you got to forgive me. You know how I hate this. I'd rather be, well, you don't know me, but I'd rather be in class. Sitting here talking to my computer is not my idea of fun, and it loses something in the translation because I feed off of the energy of a class. And I think that that's where the magic occurs, because the spontaneous questions that get asked and the ancillary discussions that take place as a consequence of being in that dynamic environment. If you're not in it, then you might as well just be, watching a movie. And essentially that's what you're doing. So I'll try to keep it as interesting as I possibly can here. But this is actually the second time that I've recorded this. I recorded this all in one big chunk. And oh boy, never mind recording it. I would hate to watch it, so I thought I'd be merciful and quick, and I divided it into two. So you're going to have, this is the first part of the lecture, and then we'll carry on after after point number 13. So we'll do the remaining 13 to 20, 14 to 24 in the second part. So anyway, without further ado, let's get on with it, shall we? All right, the first thing, be motivated yourself. Now, again, I'm taking and distilling down all of Coach Warren's work into this one lecture. And I am able to do that because there aren't any real surprises here. Most of the things you're going to hear that we talk about in this particular lecture, both parts 1 and 2, you're going to shrug your shoulders and go, yeah, okay. Well, I would ask respectfully that you resist the temptation to do that. Acknowledge that you've heard it before. Acknowledge that this is, quote, what they say and which you've always heard. But I want to put an asterisk next to this whole thing, because a lot of what is said we simply take and we don't listen to what is being said and the meaning behind it. We simply shrug our shoulders and go, oh, okay, be motivated. Okay. I'll be motivated. Well, no, it goes far, far deeper than that. And this is going to become particularly evident right after the midterm, when I put out the idea of goal setting, put that aside and get into self-improvement. But that's time for another discussion. All right, so let's talk about be motivated yourself. Well, being motivated yourself, how would you know if someone is motivated? Well, the only way you're able to notice that, and the only way you're able to tell, is that there's some action, some kind of a behavior. Something is going to give it away. There's going to be behaviors or these actions that you're going to be interpreting as motivated. Generally, they are somewhat higher energy. They are goal directed. There you go. There's that goal orientation, goal satisfaction. But being motivated yourself. And, well, why don't we just cut to the chase? Look, guys, you're college students, okay? I'm a college professor. I haven't been around the block a time or two. I've been around the block a time or 12. So, but even at your tender young age, you can determine when somebody is genuine and when somebody is blowing smoke. And you can make the distinction. So what he's talking about here is not just being motivated and doing that whole Disney thing about, hey, kids, let's have a party here. No, let's not. No. Being motivated yourself really speaks to your actions and your behavior. Never mind what's being said, look at what's being done. See if there is a congruence between what is being said and what is being done. If there is a disparity between the two, then believe what's being done rather than what's being said. Um, Never mind the words, view the action is the operative phrase there when we start talking in these terms. So being motivated yourself, that's a pretty good way to be. When you wake up in the morning, thank the maker that you did wake up, and then be about your business and be excited about it and be engaged with it. And this is going to be a constant theme as we progress through this entire one small exposure to sports psychology, is that I encourage you to live life on purpose. Live life like you mean it. Believe me when I tell you, it wasn't long ago in my mind that I was sitting there listening to some professor drone on and on and on. But now I'm that guy. And even when I was back then, I reflect on that, and I didn't take it seriously because, well, I guess the old expression is we're all immortal up until you're about 30, and then it really kind of slaps you upside the head, and then you figure, whoa, hey, hold on a second, this is midlife. So being motivated yourself means paying attention, and it means taking it seriously. Doesn't mean not having fun. Take it seriously. Number two is think positively. Well, I want you to pay attention to this as we get into some of the other theoreticians or philosophies or whatever you want to call it. We're going to have various um, ideas and schemes that are going to be put out. But pay attention, because think positively is one of those things that you're going to see come up again and again and again. Now, it's going to take on different guises. It's going to take on different ways of being presented. Some say persistence and discipline and commitment and dedication and perseverance, all of those things, but it all has to do with a sense of optimism. And this optimism versus pessimism. What's the old expression? Says, although the pessimist may ultimately be proven correct, the optimist has a hell of a good ride. So I like that. So the thinking positively beats the heck out of a sharp stick in the eye and thinking negatively. And I want you to reflect, kind of sit back in your chair there for a minute and think about some of your friends. Think about some of the people that you know who think positively and how engaging they are and how fun they are to be around, and the excitement and the adventure and the awareness and the enchantment and the just everything about it. There's energy, as opposed to those, and I'm sure you've got them in your life. Everybody does. Those who are negative, who look around in the Garden of Eden and look for the pile of dog do, and then more than that, they jump in it with both feet. But they think negatively, and they're not a lot of fun to be around. They're angry all the time, and they're PO'd, and sometimes that just sucks the life out of you. And you can only be around that for so long. And if you want to pay attention, you want to be goal oriented, and particularly if you want to live life on purpose, be very, very careful about the choices and the decisions that you make that are going to dictate the direction of your life. And number three, be flexible. Do not be afraid to try new or different approaches to motivation. Put an asterisk next to this, because I know that there's a phenomenon known as infomercialitis or seminaritis, where coaches, trainers, whatever, bosses, managers, they go to a certain seminar and then they hear the bigger, better deal. And then, oh my goodness, that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they come back and they take all of what they have known and they throw it right in the trash can. And then they throw the baby out with the bathwater, essentially, and change everything, when frankly, that's not a good idea. If you want to change everything, try changing a small thing. We're going to get into this in this, not this lecture, guys, but we're going to get into it later with Bob Parsons when we talk about the concept of Kaizen. Kaizen. Put a little Kaizen. Just put a little note on your notes, because that's going to come back and haunt us. And I hope it's one of the seminal things that you take from this class. But this being flexible, my beloved United States Marine Corps has a 3-word maxim that says improvise, adapt, and overcome. And my wife will tell you, and my students and my patients and my friends will tell you, I use this all the time. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. Use what you've got. Don't wait around. Take action. But be flexible. You're not going to have everything. You're not going to have everything all at once. It's not going to be perfect. Was talking to one of my patients the other day and claiming that he's looking for Ms. Right, and I go, no, some of you ladies out there are looking for Mr. Right. Well, you know something, you're probably not going to find Mr. Right or Ms. Right. It's going to be Mr. or Ms. Okie Dokie. It's going to be somebody who, it's going to be somebody who fills the bill. Or you're not going to have everything at your disposal at the appropriate time. So you make the best of what you've got, improvise, you adapt, and then you overcome. You still achieve the outcome. You still achieve the goal. But don't be afraid to try newer, different approaches to motivation. Yes, but resist the temptation once again to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just go all in. Oftentimes all in is not a wise thing, unless you're left with Hobson's choice, and you can either do that or do nothing, and sometimes doing nothing is doing a lot. So, all right. Control yourself. Wow, control yourself. Yeah, you need to control yourself because you're always under the microscope. If you're a coach or a trainer, you're responsible. If you've got designs on being a medical, paramedical professional, an occupational therapist, physician's assistant, DPT, whatever, people are always going to be looking at you. You're always going to be under the microscope. So you need to control yourself. You need to be organized. You need to have some sense of proper comportment. But I'm also thinking, I'm talking more to you coaches here, of two great coaches, and I always use them as exemplars. Probably dating myself a little bit, but that's okay. I'm sure that you've heard the names. The first one, the one who I always use is Pat Riley. Now, basketball coach, guy was an ice man. He was an ice man, standing on the sidelines, $5,000 suit, $500 haircut, hair slicked back. You never saw the man sweat. You never saw him sweat. He was standing there, and that was his persona. But it wasn't just his persona. From what I've been told, that was actually who he was and how he was. To his own team, he was an icon and an anchor. So the stuff hit the proverbial fan, they would look over at him and he'd be standing there just going, do it, do it. And they instantly take hold of some acknowledgement that he's got their back. Contrasted to this is a very different type of coach, Bobby Knight. If you ever heard the name, Bobby Knight never met one of his players that he wouldn't bitch slap, or that he never met a chair that he wouldn't throw out into the middle of the court, and he would belittle and ridicule. So the point I'm trying to make here is that these are two very polar opposite types of presentations relative to the concept of controlling yourself. Now, the point I want to make with this is that even though Pat Riley, was an Iceman and everything else, did Bobby Knight's, quote, abuse, unquote, of his players ever negatively impact his recruiting? No, never. People always wanted to play for Bobby Knight. Why? Well, two reasons. Number one, you got to play. You got a lot of face time. And number two, you won a lot. So that probably helps. But this idea of controlling yourself, guys, you never know who you're going to be talking to. So don't offer your opponent anything that they can use against you. In other words, poker face. Yeah. Want me to do a little Lady Gaga poker face and a little Lady Gaga sub-reference there. Okay, number 5. Pay attention to this one. Do not cheat or look for shortcuts to success in your coaching. Now, forget about the cheating. That goes without saying. If you can cheat, if you're willing to cheat, then you know what? Your career is going to be short-lived. And you're going to be found out, and you're going to be a pariah, and you're going to get your backside waxed. Okay, but here, let's take a look at this other one, which is far more common, because the shortcuts to success in your coaching, and not just your coaching, but your training, everything. You see, infomercials play upon this. They offer the bigger, better deal, and they always offer two things: instant results for no effort. You ever notice that? Instant results for no effort. Hey, by the way, free shipping. It'll be here tomorrow. The shortcuts. whenever I explain this to my students and my patients, I say, you're sitting there in your competition, and I've got my hands together, and I'm raising up, palms in, and you're growing together, and then you get sidetracked. You're looking for a shortcut, so you split off while your opponent is continuing on the path. And as you're sitting there, you eventually discover that your BBD, your bigger, better deal, is it's a oh my God, it's an evolutionary dead end. Okay. So now you're going, oh, well, okay, I got to get back on track. You mistakenly think that you're going to intercept, and you're just going to go back, and you're going to be right next to your opponents again. Well, no, you're not. You're going to retreat back to the point at which you diverged. And you're going to be significantly behind your opponents, because now you got to play catch up. And you're going to be all this time. You could have stayed the course. Now, when we get into a later lecture in the second part of the semester, get into the Book of Five Rings with Master Musashi, he says, practice is the shortcut. I think that's pretty profound. Practice is the shortcut. In other words, there is no shortcut. You're going to work your butt off. And if you do work your butt off, you stand a much better chance of success than if you sit around and try to find all these cutesy silver bullet little tricks of the trade and whatnot without ever really having to exert yourself or commit yourself. So be very, very careful about this. And this is going to be your current theme as, again, we progress through the semester. Well, let's see. How about be organized? Well, yeah, be organized. That's okay. Are you? Are you? It depends upon where I am, but most of I have stacks of papers around on my desk, but I know what is in all of those stacks of paper. And usually they are transient stacks. As each semester goes through, each assignment pulls through, then I put them into a box, and my buddy Benny comes on up and shreds them, etc. But I know where everything is. Now, let me challenge you. If I needed a ride to the airport, would you feel secure and feel proud to have me ride shotgun in your ride? Hmm? Is it nice, and is it cleaned and vacuumed and armor-alled and got one of those smell good things hanging from the mirror? Is everything squared away, or is it somewhat a bit of a mess? You've got half-empty water bottles rolling around all over the place, and pieces of paper and tickets and parking stubs and fast food wrappers and this, that, and the other. You know what I'm talking about. Is it like that? Okay. All right. Well, let me offer you this challenge. And I'll offer you these because, well, our current situation doesn't really provide a lot of in-person contact. In fact, it provides none at all, which, well, don't get me started on that. But anyway, here's the challenge. I want you to take your car. I don't care if it's a POS. Take your car, take it to car wash it, dry it, clean the wheels, put a little tire black on it, take it over to the vacuum everything out, throw away all the trash. Get one of those little bottles of Armor All. Go ahead and doll up the inside and everything else, and maybe do the windows, clean those, and blah, blah, blah. Just get it ship-shape and Bristol fashion. Get it looking like it should. You ever done that, by the way, when you're getting ready to sell your car, even if it is a POS? You go ahead and you get it all cleaned up, and then you look at it and you go, damn, wow, man, what am I getting rid of this for? Looks pretty good. Well, anyway, what I want you to do is go ahead and drive it home. If you can come around the corner, if you live in an apartment or whatnot, that parking space, if it's available, this is golden. Don't just pull into it. Set yourself up and back into it. And then get out, lock it, and walk away. Then I want you to pay attention to the feeling that you get the next time that you open the door. Now, I'm not going to give away what I'm talking about, but I want you to be cognizant of the feeling that you have. Yeah, I'd use the F word, feeling. The feeling that you have when you open the door. After it's been a POS and it's been a train wreck for so long, you suddenly have it like this, and you're in there, you're going to feel different. That's just a little aside. Here, you want it on a grander scale? Do it with your domicile. If you're living in a house, you got housemates, you got a roommate, you're in your dorm, whatever. enlist some cooperation, take everything out and do all your laundry, fold it, put it away, hang up all your clothes, vacuum, dust, move everything, clean out the fridge, even the stuff that's a science experiment in the bottom down there. Hey, guys, clean your damn bathroom. Yeah, clean it. Clean the whole place. Spick and span. Boom. Then leave. And then once again, this could be on a grander scale. Next time that you enter your domicile, make note of the feeling that you get. And we'll talk about this in another lecture. Okay. So much for being organized. And by the way, if you're organized, it makes things a heck of a lot easier when you're trying to find stuff. You know, you don't have to waste a great deal of time. When we get into Kaizen, there's that word again. I will give you a little bit of some insights into that. I think you'll find them useful and amusing. Oh, number 7. Talk with swimming or track coaches about motivation. I was intrigued when I saw this because I went, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Okay, well, let's see. Why would you want to talk to swimming or track coaches? Well, here, guys, can you answer the question? Why would you talk? What does he say is unique about swimming or track coaches? Now, you might initially say, well, they're individual sports. Yeah, but so's golf and so's tennis and so's, you see what I'm saying? No, something unique about swimming and track coaches. Well, I'll cut to the chase on this since we can't have a class discussion, but as far as swimming is concerned, it's just boring. The scenery never changes. How do you make a 100-meter swim freestyle exciting? How do you make it different? How do you mix it up? How do you keep it fresh? It's the same water. It's the same wall. It's the same number of strokes, and it's the same strokes. So, what about track? How can you make 100 meters interesting? Because you're not going to train at 200 meters because 100 meters is the distance. You train for 200, you're training for 200, and 100 ain't going to derive the benefit that you think you will. You certainly aren't going to be running miles or 1,500 meters, whatever you want to call it. So, but there's something else, especially about swimming. If any of you were high school swimmers, you already know where I'm going with this. There's 2 things with swimming and with track. Number 1, they're boring and they don't ever change, and it's tough for the coach to keep it fresh. But as far as swimming is concerned, if you're a swimmer while everybody else is still snug in their bed, you're in the pool at 0 dark 30. You've already, by the time homeroom comes around, you've already been in the pool for almost 2 hours. And then what happens immediately when the bell rings? Your bad self is right back in the pool. So that's what he's talking about. If you really want to talk about motivation, there are ways to do it, and he offers some, and we'll talk about it, not necessarily in this particular lecture here, guys, but as we move through, I think it'll become apparent, and I'll try to make the connection for you to where you can mix things up. So, all right. It says, be consistent with your relations with your players. Yeah, fairly, not equally. I remember this when my martial arts master, when I was first promoted to instructor in Tang Soo Do Taekwondo, and I'd already been teaching as an assistant instructor, but I just passed the big test. So now I was a fully certified instructor, examiner, and referee. So my master watched me teach class. It was the first one after my promotion. And then he called me into his office after the class, and we sat there, and he served tea. And it's kind of it's kind of unnerving because nothing is said for a while, and you being American, I'm tempted to fill the void with some kind of joke or something like this, but that is quite inappropriate with the master, and now grandmaster. But he said to me, Instructor Fisher, if you want to teach someone nothing, try to teach everything. And I thought about that once. What was master? What he was saying was, you can't expect to teach too much to everybody. Everybody is going to progress at their own speed. What you need to do is learn to treat everybody in the class fairly, not equally. One size does not fit all. Some people can't keep up. Some people, at the pace you're proceeding, are bored to tears. They're already at the end. They're sitting there tapping their feet while others are barely trying to grasp the basic concepts. So, this concept of fairly, not equally. Avoid the temptation. Again, that's one of my catchphrases. Avoid the temptation to try to treat everyone equally. Please hear me on this. Write this down. One size fits all never, ever, ever works. I mean, if that were the case, my goodness, we could solve the obesity problem right now. We just mandate that all clothing manufacturers make size medium. That's it. And if you can't wear it, then you're going to go around naked. You probably won't go around. You probably stay in your apartment and probably wither and die, until, or at least wither until you got the size medium. But, all right. So this being consistent with the relations to your players. Be predictable to your players. You don't want to be predictable to everybody else. Your players are the only ones you want to be predictable to. You want to be unpredictable to everybody else, especially your opponents. So, and this, there are logical and natural consequences. Most good coaches and trainers and whatnot have pre-season meetings. They have team meetings, and they all get together and here are the rules. We're all going to abide by them. Is everybody in agreement with this? Yes, yes, yes. Here, sign the pledge. Put your hands in here. 1, 2, 3. Yay! All right. So, being predictable to your players. Once you have arranged all of this, had a pre-season meeting, then if somebody transgresses, if a rule is broken, it's not you, coach or trainer, being a jerk. Hey, you were at the meeting. You signed the paper. Why would you disrespect yourself and your team and your heritage and the game and the sport and the coaches? And why would you do that? So it's not you being a jerk. There are logical and natural consequences. How are the logical and natural consequences? If you're wise, those are established up front. This last one, too, is kind of an interesting thought. Try to recapture trust after it's been broken. Well, I'm sure that you probably agree that trust is a pretty difficult thing. And if I asked you all in class, and I usually challenge me, I usually pick on somebody and say, "Here, do you trust me?" And I get various answers. Sometimes it's no, not at all. I go, "Good on you." And then they say, or somebody says, "Yes, I trust you." I go, wow, you don't know me. Could be an axe murderer. Come on, you have no idea who I am. Just because I'm standing up here in some kind of professorial position doesn't mean that I am to be trusted. So it's difficult because most people, at least in the West, have adopted, again, here's that shrugging shoulders and saying, "Well, I'll trust you, but only a little bit. And you've got to earn my trust." Okay. Now imagine that sounds pretty logical until I ask you, okay, how do I do that? How do I earn your trust? Do I have to stand like this? What do I have to, what do I have to do? Look, help me out here because I don't know the currency or the arena in which what do I need to do to build up my account and deposit enough in the bank so that we pass threshold and now you trust me? You see, it's difficult because it sounds great. Yeah, well, you got to prove it. Well, how do you prove it? The answer to the conundrum is that there is no way to prove it. The only way to prove it is that you never betray my trust. Now, how long is that going to take? What, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade? And if that's the case, what do we do in the meantime? What is our relationship built on? If you're sitting around there with arms crossed and arms akimbo and sitting there tapping your toe and going, "Okay, come on, doc, prove it. Prove you're trustworthy." I'm 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 at, I don't know, I'm in an impasse. There's nothing I can do. But what do we base our relationship on in the meantime? That's a key factor. So we're going to have to go back and revisit that whole trust thing. Now that I've given you the predicate, now take a look at this. What happens if the trust once given is broken? What happens if you tell me about that night in Montreal and then I blab it to the rest of the team and then say, "Oh, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. You told me not to say anything about that." Gosh, good grief. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I was just kidding. Okay, now trust me again. What are the chances? Point to be made here, and the point that Coach Warren is saying is that you're going to have one chance, one chance. And if you blow it, you've blown it. So make the most of it. Avoid forming hasty negative opinions of players. Risk taking is part of this. Now, I'm sure that most of you, because you're athletes and because you're kinesiology majors, you probably regard yourself as being a risk taker. Do you? Okay. Well, what kind of risks do you take? Now, while I'm sitting here and challenging you with that, you're probably flipping through those times where you put your physical body in harm's way. You put your physical body in peril. Now, the point that I am making, and of course Coach Warren is making too, is that there are other ways that you can take risks that can give you an injury that to which physical pain pales in comparison. You can have your heart broken. You can have your reputation shattered. You can have your character challenged. Any number of things. So just be careful about that whole risk taking thing. People ask me, "Am I a risk taker?" Well, yeah, I've been a risk taker all my life. For gosh sakes, I'm a naval aviator. I'm a martial artist. I'm a scuba dive master. Yeah, I live on the edge. I live on purpose, and I still take risks, but even when I was taking the risks were calculated. Yeah, okay, all right. Have I ever done anything dumbass? Oh yeah, oh yeah. And fortunately, thank you, Lord, I'm still around to bear witness to that. But be careful about the risk taking. Risk taking is something that you have to weigh and balance, and it's not only putting your physical self in harm's way. This other one here, just because you see something, don't think that's really how it is. Look, one of the great disadvantages that all of us live under is that we only know what we know. And because we only know what we know, that's limited, that's finite. What we don't know is infinite. Okay, so if you think that you've really got it all, you've really got it made and you've got it all thought through, well, come on. Remember back when you were 13, 14, and you knew everything? Right. Oh, and you did know everything. You had all the questions answered. And that was because the questions you were asking were so stupid and so immaterial to anything meaningful in life that now they're amusing, but they were deadly serious back then. Remember that? Yeah. But just because you see something, don't think that's really how it is. The only thing that we have to interpret our surroundings is our experiential base. In other words, the things we've experienced, stuff we've seen before. And when we haven't seen this before, we look for the closest thing to give it some kind of context, some kind of meaning. And if we get out there and we have a lot of experiences, we've got a lot to choose from. If you keep your head in the sand and you like to isolate, and this whole social isolation thing is really bringing this to the fore, then you don't have a lot to compare things to. And so the decisions that you make are sometimes going to be an either or rather than here a multiple choice of the top 10 possible responses to this particular situation or scenario. So, and then avoid as much as possible any preconceptions. Well, about forming negative opinions of your players. Well, and this is a human condition, part of the human condition here, certainly. Let me ask you personally. I mean, I hate to get into all this theory and not bring it back to reality, but have you ever been burned? You ever read that book wrong or incorrectly? You ever believe somebody was one thing, they turned out to be another? Yeah. And I'm talking good or bad. Maybe you thought they were great to begin with, and they turned out and took your soul, or maybe they turned out. What's that post where it has Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell from Tombstone, and it says everybody's had that friend that says, "When I first met you, I thought you were a jerk." So, anyway. This is just paying attention and doing the very best you can. We're all doing the best we can. Okay, don't make the mistake of trying to treat all players alike. This is the same thing. We just really talked about this, and I'll kind of breeze over this, but it's fairly, not equally. You got to study your players, and you got to know who you're dealing with. Coach Warren says you got to find out who needs to be pulled and find out who needs to be pushed. but I'll add a third one in here if I may be so bold. You also need to find out who needs to be left alone. That's what I need. I don't need to be pushed. I push myself, believe me, and I don't need to be pulled. No, that's patronizing me. Don't do that. A lot of times, especially when I'm sick, I want to be left alone. Leave. I'll let you know when I want to see somebody. I'll let you know when I'm better. I'll let you know when if I need anything. But remember, just this bottom line statement: one size does not fit all. Despite all the politically correct stuff out there that says, "Oh yes, it is. Everybody loves it." No, no. Think about this. What happens if everybody gets a C? I'll let that sink in. No, matter of fact, let's go ahead and get real. Let's go have everybody gets a C minus. I don't care if you bust your hump or whether you're just sitting there and you blow off class and you ditch. Everybody gets a C minus. You think about that one. All right. Never be too busy to listen to your players. Wow. Communication's a two-way street. Yeah. It's not just me talking to you, and I wish we were in class because you guys, this is motivation, and you've never seen me before. You've never had one of my classes before, but I try to engage. I mean, I get in your face to engage, and it's done with great energy and great humor, hopefully. But communication is a two-way street. Besides, I already know this stuff. I'm doing it to communicate to you. I'm hoping that you are deriving something and taking something away, but I need to hear from you so that I can get some clarification, and then we can expand upon some of the questions that come up. Just exactly who works for who? Well, that's an interesting concept. Who works for who? Yeah, I got Maxwell's silver hammer here, according to the Beatles. I've got the grade book. I'm the one who determines the grade that you earn. But who works for who? I'm a hired gun. You guys are the customer. So you see, you're not going to find too many professors out there saying that, but that's really the nature of things. Now, don't thank me yet, because I will hold your feet to the fire because I take my position very seriously. To the untrained eye, I may seem a little bit unconventional, but believe me, I take it very seriously. And he says, just remember, players have a dynamic life outside the team and outside of practice. So, yeah, there are other things going on, but never to be too busy to listen to your players. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Always be on the lookout for potential team leaders. Yes. Now, when we get into other lectures, and I always make the distinction between leadership and administration, with management kind of as a pendulum in the middle. Leadership is a very, very unique quality. Administration, you're a pencil pusher and you fill out forms, and that's not much more than that. Management goes back and forth in between. But sometimes, maybe you can relate to this, sometimes the guy or the gal wearing the armband is not the leader of your team. Sometimes that's just for whatever reason the most popular, the coach's son or daughter, or whatever. But you, as a coach or a trainer or an astute observer, how are you going to determine who the leaders are? You need to be looking for team leaders because you need help. You need allies. Well, here's a suggestion. When the stuff hits the fan, pay attention to your players. Look to whom they look to. All heads are probably going to turn to one individual. That is your leader. And he or she may or may not be wearing the armband. Doesn't matter. Someone else is the captain, but that's one of your leaders right there. Coach says provide opportunities for character to be revealed. I love that because the old expression is sport and competition doesn't create character. It reveals it. It allows it to be expressed. And what he talks about here is offering chances for everybody to have their character revealed. Take turns having people lead the exercise, lead the calisthenics, lead the run, lead the here you go and get the water. You over here, you're holding the clipboard. Bang, 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 bang. You're up here going to lead the team discussion. Bang, bang, bang. rotate it around, see how everybody does, but allow everyone the opportunity just to see how they perform. The power of peer pressure. This has considerably changed in the past year, especially with all the anti-bullying and political correctness and all the rest of that stuff, and everybody gets a trophy. Peer pressure and the power of peer pressure had a very different meaning back when I was playing ball in the 60s and the 1970s. I graduated high school in 72. But when we were back there, it was it was certainly somewhat less forgiving. If we had somebody on the team that was a problem, I'm talking with a capital P. They were really screwing around, or they were messing things up, or they were just not giving it what they had. The expression back then was, "Coach ain't always going to be around." And what would happen is, invariably, we would all go into the locker room, and a couple of the guys would stand at the door and kind of be lookouts. And we would have a very, very short, lively discussion and clear things up. And we did. We cleared things up. Uh, wouldn't pass muster today, guys, but that's the way that it was done back then. Now, well, look at what peer pressure has led to today. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody's the best. Everybody's a winner. Nobody loses. Everything is relative. And look at the streets right now. Look at what's happening. You do the math on that one. It's not above my pay grade, but it's maybe time for another lecture later in the semester when you get to know me better. Anyway, good team leaders may simplify the coaching task. Yes, because they're going to be your allies. That's why you need allies. And regardless of how hard you drive your players, treat them with dignity and respect. And he asked the question, what about discipline? I get asked about this all the time. My comment to that, and my response to that, is use the verb to determine the noun. In other words, practice discipline, actively assert discipline so that you can become disciplined, so you can be an exemplar of discipline. And this can take many, many, many forms. Sometimes it's doing things on time, being punctual. Sometimes it's just a matter of showing up. Sometimes it's a matter of being cool under fire. Anyway, what about discipline? It is something that you can learn. It is a learned skill. Everything we're talking about here is a learnable skill. Don't just dismiss this and think that it's going to be something that you have to sit on a mountaintop for half your life, contemplating your navel and eating lotus blossoms. No, it's not it at all. You can take opportunities each and every day to practice discipline. And when you throw your keys down, take a moment, put your keys over here where they belong. That small thing, by the way, that's an example of Kaizen. That's the third time I've used that word. But what about discipline? I think that it's all important, and discipline is necessary. And discipline can bring order out of chaos. And then praise in public and admonish in private. Yes, we all know about that one. And don't rob your players of their pride. Don't sit there and ridicule them. You want an exercise in this, look at We Are Marshall, or The Program, or Remember the Titans, or any of those other films. Each one of those masterful jobs performed by the coaches. So don't rob them of their pride. Try to allow them to express it and allow them to develop it. And that's the end of part one. Okay. And that was 43 minutes. Okay, I'll try to be a little bit quicker on the second part, but that's enough. And go ahead and get yourself a glass of water and hit the bathroom, and then come on back and I'll have part two posted for you. Okay.